What's up, everybody? More Than Mortgage, Chad Anderson, Zach Jones. Today, we're going to jump right in, and we're going into this is something that became popular, then it died down, and it's kind of become popular again. I don't know popular per se, but I personally have seen it come up a few times recently, and that's the old buy down, the temporary buy down or the permanent buy down. Which one do you do? Which one's more effective? Which one's smarter? We've got our own thoughts and our own strategies on this. So Zach and I, being the nerds that we are, we're going to do some math for you today. So Zach, how you been? First of all, happy late 4th.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I can't believe that the year is half over. I mean,
I
that's
know.
that's kind of the shocker of the season here. But coming in hot and heavy into election season, things are getting a little bit crazy. We'll see where things land.
We got 2 Fed meetings too, right before the election, end of July and then September. So, what's going to happen there? Because everybody's, kind of on pins and needles. And if you look at mortgage-backed securities, we've started to trend better and better. But the only reason is because we've had such negative economic news recently. And if you're in the mortgage world, it's kind of a morbid place to live because usually recessions mean good years for mortgage originators, unfortunately, as crazy as that sounds, but that is true. Again, kind of morbid, but hey, is what it is. So yeah, it's just been interesting watching the mortgage rates and whatnot. Finally, below 7% on a national average, according to Mortgage News Daily. Now, when I say below, I mean, we're at 6.99%, but hey, still below 7, broke the threshold, right?
And that's with a little bit of a buy down too. There's always points on it. They're trying to press that a little bit.
Zach, you and the minutia, man. You always gotta get
those pesky details.
Read the fine print there at the bottom. All right. So we want to talk about the discount and the buy downs, the permanent and the temporary. I have a very strong conviction about this. I'm going to go on a 2-minute rant, and then I'm going to turn it over to Zach, and then we'll show you some math. But here's my thing with the buy downs is that nobody should pay discount points right now. And if you're looking or watching this video, a lot of you are going, Chad, you just closed my loan and you gave me a rate that had discount points in it. Or wait a minute, why didn't you bring this up before? Or whatever the case may be. It's just my opinion, okay? Because if you took my advice 2 years ago on this topic, well, the discount points may have come out better because the buy down would be over at this point, and we'd be back to the interest rate of year 3. So it's not, again, this is just a personal opinion, but we all expect rates to go down. The problem is we've expected it for 2 years, hasn't happened yet. I truly think they're going to start coming down over the next 12 months. I think by the end of next year, we will be in the 5s. We'll see, but I think we will by the end of next year. But here's the deal. A discount point that you pay, you are paying to permanently buy down that rate. So if the par rate, which means no discount points, is, let's just use 7.25, then the rate with a discount point, let's say, is 6.8%. Okay. So you're going to pay a point, 1% of your loan amount to get to 6.8. When you save that kind of money, we're talking what, 65 to 75 bucks, Zach, depending on the average size of your loan. Yeah.
Average, right.
Somewhere in there. Okay. If the average loan size is 300 to 400,000, you're paying $3,000 to $4,000 at closing to save 75 bucks a month. Well, do that math. That takes quite a while to recoup. Well, on a temporary buy down, you get a lower interest rate for a year or for 2 years, depending on which one you go with. Even 3 years is possible. But the biggest thing, this is the linchpin right here. This is the one, the kicker. When you do a temporary rate buy down, if the market gives you better rates during that temporary period and you refinance, you get a refund of the money spent on the temporary buy down. If you do permanent discount points, a permanent buy down, you get nothing back. Like Willy Wonka, you lose. Good day, sir. It's over. It's done. You spent the money. Gone. So that's really my main reason. Discount points aren't a bad thing, especially if you need a lower payment. 100% if the seller is paying for it. I just like to tell people, like, hey, go with the temporary and spend the money there, because if rates come down, you get a refund. But if they don't, then okay, maybe works out the other way. But I just still think that in the next year or two, we're going to see lower rates. That's why I love the temporary buy down. We'll show you some math. But Zach, your thoughts on all that?
Well, I would agree with you. It really is you do the break even analysis, and we always, the professional loan officers are always looking at a break even analysis on a purchase, buying discount points, doing a temporary buy down. On refinances, we're looking at how quickly you recoup your closing costs and the savings in the loan over the long term. There's all of those calculations should be being done by all mortgage professionals, not always done. Some people are selling the sexiest thing in the room, which is the lowest rate, even if that comes at a great cost that there's really no chance to recoup. And I've seen that happen in my life. There's one loan from a long time ago that the guy was never going to recoup the buy down on a 10-year fixed rate, but I think that he was going back to the plant and trying to beat his brother-in-law and saying, I got the lowest rate ever.
Yeah.
So that's not math. That's pride, or thinking that something is one way and it's another. So the temporary buy down is an investment in a lower rate that has the potential of a refund if you don't use it all. That's kind of the way to think about this. But if you buy the rate down permanently and then you don't use enough of those loan payments to recoup that discount point, it's loss, and you're not going to be sitting there at the refinance point when you got a decision point and it's time to save some money, saying, oh well, wait a minute, I want to stay in my loan 16 more months because I want to recoup the original discount point that I invested on the front end. You're just not going to make that decision because that's foolishness. So as far as buy downs are concerned, absolutely that temporary buy down does work. I think that you would probably agree with me that in this business, we're kind of balancing between we're looking at a permanent buy down saying, okay, well, are you going to recoup it in time? Or maybe we protect ourselves against, the worst case scenario, which is rates stay the same or go up long term, which nobody really believes, but anything is possible in the world we live in.
Higher for longer, right?
It's been so painful over the last couple of 3 years. I will tell you that this week I locked a financial planner, somebody who's in the business, very successful guy in the business, in the markets every day. He locked a loan, $750,000 loan on a big old fat gigantic piece of property that was way more than that. And he did not buy any points at all. We did a par rate because he was in his mind saying, hey, listen, I'm in this position. I'm fortunate. If rates don't go down, then I'll just pay off the loan aggressively, because that's his, in his financial planning world, that's what he does. Right. And if it does go down, he was like, I don't want to be in a position where I'm feeling like I lost money doing some sort of a rate buy down that I didn't use. I didn't get the full benefit of.
Yeah, that's 100% right. A lot of times too, I'm going to show you this example. People get hung up because, let's say par is 7.25. Okay. Hypothetically, if par is 7.25 with no points, and you go, well, I want to spend a point buying it down and get 6.8 permanently. Well, people fall for that because if
Six.
the 6 versus 7.
Yeah.
The 6 versus 7. But then if you said, well, wait, if you spent the same point, you could just buy down temporarily buy the rate down to 6.25. And if the market shifts like we think it will, then guess what? You get a refund on that. But if the market shifts, you don't get a refund on the 6.8. Like, it's gone. Right. Especially you start doing the 2 years when it's like, wow, okay, 5.25, 6.25, 7.25. Versus, I'm going to spend all that money and buy it down to 6.6. It's like people just don't want to see 7 on their interest rate. Right. I had people before who are like, and I get it, kind of. I do, but I don't. Like, I've literally won deals in the past, all because the company I work for has 6.998%.
Right.
And the other guy's got 7.0. The difference in payment is like 3 cents.
Right.
But they don't want to sign that piece of paper that's got a 7 in front of it. It's amazing. It's fascinating, the human mind, how that works.
Well, and honestly, we've done that in the mortgage business with custom rate quotes. You know,
Yeah,
you and I can quote rates that nobody else has a 6.7875 rate, or everybody else has 6.875. I've got 6.8749.
I started doing like crazy numbers. Like, I would mess with people, and if they, no joke, it's just complete marketing, right? So if I knew their anniversary, is like September 20th, then I would lock them at 6.820 and say, hey, I threw the 20 in there because it's your anniversary. Haha.
Right.
Like, just
Wow. How'd you do
right.
that? Yeah.
And truth be told, it means nothing, right? Like, it doesn't impact the payment, but those tiny 2 little decimals in the 100th and 1,000th position behind the decimal, it's amazing how far it goes in the human mind and just all those kinds of things. So, all right, here's kind of the quick scenario and how this works. So, purchase price, you see here, you see here $400,000, 20% or $20,000 down, which is 5%, because in case you didn't know, you don't need 20% down to buy a house, in spite of what some people may say. Also, PMI is your best friend in the entire world. It is the absolute cheapest money on the entire market. I don't care what anyone says. It's an amazing tool. And if you don't like it, then you need to open your brain. Loan amount, 380,000. Interest rate, we're going to use 6.99 just because we can't help ourselves. That principal and interest would be 25.6 per month. Okay. Not taxes, insurance, everything, principal and interest. So year one, let's say we've got a 2-1 buy down. Okay.
Which means define that.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Perfect. So 2-1 buy down. It means in the first year, your interest rate is 2 points lower than your actual rate. Your true real rate is 6.99. First year, 4.99. That's the payment. That's the savings. Second year, 5.99. Hence the 1, the 2, the 1, 5.99. There's your payment. There's the savings. Years 3 through 30, you come back over here. Okay. That's how it works. People go, well, how do you know what it costs? It's actually very simple, but people just don't know. It's one of those like hidden sauces things, secret sauce things. All you're doing is you're taking the difference right here and multiplying it by 12. You're taking the difference here, multiplying it by 12, and you're adding the two together. That's the cost of this. So if you want to look at it and say, all right, well, what's my total cost? Well, this would be 488 times 12 is 58.56, 249.75. It's 29.97, 58.56, $8,853. That's what you come up with.
So
that's
it's
it.
Almost 3% of the total loan amount. A little less than that because you got a declining balance.
Yep. So if you did that, here's the thing. Somebody's paying for this gap right here. And a lot of times it's what people use for seller credit, is because what you're doing is you're allowing the seller to make your mortgage payment for you, or partially, right. Sorry. You're allowing the seller to make partial mortgage payments for you over the course of the first 24 months. So instead of trying to spend a boatload of money on discount points to buy down the permanent rate to get the payment where you want, or if the cash part isn't as big of a deal, but getting this payment down this low is a big deal, that's where you can come in and save some money. And again, let's say that year 2 doesn't exist because you refinance at the end of year 1 and you get a permanent rate of 5.99 after year 1. Well, then in year 2, you get 249.75 times 12, you get a $2,997 refund. That's how it works.
Yeah. So you get that money back that's been deposited on your behalf by that credit. Anything that's unused comes back to you.
Pretty straightforward. That's why I love it. That's why I think it's a good deal. But truly, no joke, a lot of the hang up is because our rates have settled on this benchmark of 7%.
Right.
And people just want to be below 7 more so than having that 1 year or 2 year buy down, in order to, they just like the way it looks on paper. So,
right.
So final thought on that, Zach?
Well, I think the takeaway, if I were buying a house and I didn't really, for some reason, need, a 2% lower payment, because of, new babies, mom's not working, she's staying home for a couple of years, whatever it is, there's lots of reasons why people want to do that temporary buy down. I would be in a position where I would not, as tough as it is mentally, to take that 7 1/4 rate or 7 1/8, I would take that without discount points right now and have my mind really focused on where my trigger point is for the refinance down the road, and whether that comes. We're not going to see it this year, but I think that next year is going to be a year of falling interest rates, falling mortgage interest rates.
Yeah.
I sure hope that to be the case. We'll get, we'll kind of come off of this really hot economy with the inflation where it's been. All those measures are in place. Maybe we'll get a break on it.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. I know it's a dead horse. I think people who were hoping for lower rates in the last 2 years and really pushing the temp buy down early on were more hopeful, simply thinking we can't shoot up this fast. We got to come back down. It has to happen. Higher for longer has happened. But with everything and all the indicators in the economy right now and everything that's come out recently and the election coming up, I can't help but think that it truly will start to trend more positively towards a lower interest rate over the next, 6 to 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah. And along with that comes some negative news about the economy, probably higher unemployment, things like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. It is a conundrum for us in the business, but as you see those more negative economic headlines, just keep in mind, if you have a mortgage and it's got one of these higher rates, just think, okay, here it comes. There's a silver lining to the cloud.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that'll wrap it up for us. Thanks for allowing us to have a week off. I know you missed us, and thanks for joining us today on this channel for this this breakdown. And we'll be back next week with some more, and hopefully, God, a little bit of a break. And speaking of coming down, how about some cooler weather?
Yeah,
it's been rough lately. But hey, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next week. Take care.